Recording in progress. That means another episode of The Office Hours is ready to kick off here. Ladies and gentlemen, today I think we've got a pretty cool subject, especially when Mike talks about one of the projects that he had with our RFID. Essentially, we're talking about use of tagging in FileMaker, which is great for inventory systems. It's great for just a bunch of use cases where you have to quickly inventory things. So without further ado, I will pass the mic to Mike and let it rip.
Yeah, so when you want to interface FileMaker with the real world, there's a number of different techniques you can use. Since FileMaker Go is built on iOS as well, there's a lot you can do with an iOS device that's built in already. So fortunately, FileMaker Go has taken advantage of that and integrated things. Normally, this has traditionally been people doing barcode integrations, which has become so much of a part of our regular FileMaker development world that there are now, essentially included tools to both generate barcodes and also to read barcodes out. But there's other devices as well that people want to play around with in the real world, and iOS actually supports. So today we're going to talk about what those other methods are. So when you're thinking about how can I apply this to my system, why does it matter for my software? Well, usually as a business, you're probably selling products or things. So a lot of the times you're doing an inventory or you're managing assets in your organization, and you need a quick way to pull up and identify those assets. Barcode scanning certainly is something you can do. But what if your assets are things like animals or livestock, or you have so many assets that barcodes maybe don't make sense because you need to reprogram and reassign those tags to things as your inventory changes. Well, fortunately, there's two other technologies that we'll talk about that meet those needs. So I'll first introduce you to NFC tags. NFC is what's called near field communication. And an NFC tag is basically a small, very cheap, what's called a passive tag, and that means it doesn't require a power source for it to work. And usually they come in the form of like these. So this is what we'll be dealing with today. These are some Nfc stickers. And if you look, I'll try to bounce the light off of it, but you can see there's like a little bump in the middle of them. And I'll actually peel one off here to show you the back side as well. But what this is a very small, very tiny passive chip that's got the capability to store just a small amount of data on it. And it's designed to be either written or read based on near field communication. So that's usually Bluetooth or something close to that on your device. And so iPhones can actually let us both read and write these tags. So one of the updates that FileMaker recently came out with in the last two versions was the ability to natively in FileMaker Go read these tags. And these tags, like I said, they don't store a lot of data, but the only data you need to store is something like an ID so that you can pull that out and then pull up the rest of your data from FileMaker based on that scanned ID. Now, something that's more robust that needs to be out in the field, weatherproof or something, it's going to be something like this. And this is an RFID tag. And RFID stands for radio frequency identification. So it's almost the same, whereas this doesn't have a battery in it. This is a livestock tag. So there's actually a pin that goes in this side here, and it passes through usually an ear of an animal or something when they tag them. And this works just on a different kind of frequency. It still is only designed to store a little bit of information. If you can actually see here, there's an ID number on this tag. And when I scan this tag, it'll provide that ID number for me. And I can use that again for asset identification. And then for things like barcodes, FileMaker now supports just a myriad of barcodes. So we'll kind of talk about that as well. And barcodes, kind of something that's already around, but barcodes, you know, they're a little difficult to deal with. You know, you have to have a barcode printer, or you have to pre-order sheets of barcodes. There's a chance that the thing that you're scanning is going to not be unique, so it's not as easy to transfer or reassign tags to different records. But all three of these techniques are easily accessible, and that's what I'll be demonstrating today. So let's go ahead and screen share here. So this is today's demo file that I've thrown together to show these three types of scanning. And the first thing we're going to start off with is just a simple barcode scan. Then we'll do an NFC scan so you can see that, and an RFID scan. So first, when you're thinking about barcode scanning, it uses the insert from device script step. So this is a script step that only works on FileMaker Go. It won't do anything if you want to run it in FileMaker Pro here. But you can select that you want to insert from barcode. So you can also choose signatures, photo libraries, camera, that kind of stuff. And then you specify where that field is going. Now, these are all of the barcodes that FileMaker supports. And I think with the latest release, these 5 are the ones that were added on. So most of the barcodes that you look at on a day-to-day basis are some of the easier ones. But of course, like data matrix ones start to become familiar with all those boxes, and I think Aztec is what, like, you know, UPS uses or something like that. So there's some very complicated barcodes, and each one of those barcodes stores different types of data. But since FileMaker has built-in support for essentially everything that the iOS camera supports, it's able to scan that barcode. So I just wrote a really simple script here that's going to ask us if we want to search for the product that we scanned and open up a browser to be able to scan that. So let's try that out first. Now, for the demonstration today, I'm going to be using my iPhone. I think it's a 11 Max or something like that. And I'm just mirroring it here using QuickTime. So we'll just open up FileMaker Go 19. And here's the same file just running locally here. So I'll choose Barcode Scan. Oh, do need access to my camera. So I've got a box of reads here. And these are specifically AltoSax reads. I have a lot of these boxes around, so I'm just going to scan my barcode here. And so that was really quick. And also, if I want to search for the product, so I'll tap OK. And it's going to open up a web page for me here. And you can see that that's there. So maybe if I have a library of my collection of boxes of different reads and I notice one's running low, I can just scan that barcode, launch it, and I'm good to go. Now that's something you can really do with the regular camera in iOS as well. So like if you just open up the camera in iOS and you have a barcode, most of the time it's going to capture and detect that. Maybe not this time. I'll try to rotate it here. Well, it's not recognizing it. So maybe that's a good reason why you should build an app for it. So this type of technique, this barcode scanning, since it's trigger based, you know, let me just say I'm done with this. You can see we actually get that scanned value in FileMaker in a field. So we can do anything that you want to do with that. So we can put a trigger on this field and have it perform any number of scripted actions. So if you're doing inventory in a system, you could scan the barcode for the product on the shelf, and it could pull up a screen where you can type in how much inventory you have. It's a very basic use case for it. There are some more advanced use cases as well, but you know, we'll cover those later. So the next thing we're going to talk about is NFC scanning. So this is the most recent addition to FileMaker Go, only because it was more recently that they started to add NFC scanning to iOS devices. So I think you have to have an iPhone 8 or newer to do NFC scanning. But like I had mentioned, FileMaker so far has only added the reading scanning portion of this. They haven't added the writing portion. So when you get an actual like chunk or strip of these NFC tags, they don't come programmed. You actually have to program them yourself. So I'm going to demonstrate that first, how that works. Now I found a free app on the App Store. It's just called Nfc Tools. And it has read and write capabilities. So I have maybe a different box of reads, and I've put an NFC sticker on the back that I haven't programmed yet. So I'm going to, in my app, I'm going to choose write. And the last one I did was Van Doren 1, so this one's going to be Van Doren 2. And OK. And then I just hit this write button right here. It says ready to scan. And the scanner is kind of right up here next to the camera. So you have to get it right around there. Of course, this stuff never works in live demos. Sometimes you have to try a couple times. I'm going to try writing again.
Is this technology is relatively new though, right, Mike?
NFC tags have been around for a while, but the integration, oh, there we go. So it just wrote it there.
I like how it says approach the NFC tag. Maybe maybe you made too many.
So what most people are familiar with are people that have had kids within the last, especially preteen kids within the last 10 years. Amiibo, those are like the Nintendo little figures that have you can put it next to your game system and it gives you power-ups in games and stuff. Amiibos work with NFC tags. So I'm just going to read, while I'm still in the same app, I'm just going to read that tag that I just wrote to make sure that it's returning the right thing. So this actually shows you very well like what all information comes with an NFC tag here. It's got a serial number, it's got how much memory is there, and then it shows me my record down here. So just by typing Van Doren 2, I'm using 3% of the storage space on this tag already. So you can imagine it doesn't store a lot of information. So that's how we write tags. Eventually, FileMaker has mentioned, or Claris has mentioned, that they want to get that writing capability inside of FileMaker Go as well. So hopefully they'll add that so you don't need a different app. So I'll go back here and we're going to do an NFC scan now. And I had previously tied this to my inventory in this app, so I should just be able to scan it. And you can see here that it actually scanned there. And you can see that FileMaker has an option to deliver this payload in JSON for me. So if I go back over here and I pull up my scripts, and I go to my scan read, here's where it's pulling out the JSON result and doing the search for us. So this is what's scanned. I hit OK. It pulls me up this record. So I can say, oh, okay, this record's in my library. Like, I really like these reads, so I'm going to order those again. But so this type of information or this type of tagging can be used to create apps as well that do things like if you have a museum or like even like any collection at home and you need to label a bunch of stuff. I don't know why that went away. I think my cable's coming unplugged. So like if you have a bunch of museum exhibits where you want to walk around and have an app pull up a specific record so people can read more about that thing, NFC would be a good way to do that because, well, at least for iOS devices, you have that built in. I'm not sure about Android devices, and there's no FileMaker Go for Android yet. So this doesn't really work with WebDirect without some sort of, trickery in the background maybe to get it working. But that's something you can do. The NFC tags are designed to be just very cheap and easy to, read and write. So I think this whole strip of 15 or so tabs was less than $10 on Amazon. Somebody's going to call me during the meeting. It's going to be great. All right. So I'm going to go back here to my scanning layout. But this is what the JSON payload looks like here coming back. Okay, it wasn't that important. You can also scan like multiple tags at once. So like if your NFC device goes up next to like, this whole strip of tags and they're all programmed, it might read out 2 or 3 things at a time. FileMaker also has a continuous scan option here. So here's that script step that essentially launches that reader. And there's a continuous reading setting under here. And also that format results as JSON there. There's also a timeout. So this is set so that it'll give up after 30 seconds if you haven't scanned a tag. But if you set continuous reading, what it'll do is it'll read all those tags for 30 seconds. And then when it's done after 30 seconds, it will deliver all of those payloads to you so that you have multiple records in here for all the tags that you scanned in that 30 seconds. So this is built in, so it's a very easy integration to set up. So you can have one device that's, writing tags, and then once you've programmed these tags, unless you walk by it with a really strong magnet or something, they're gonna just stay there passively with that data for as long as you need. And since you can reprogram these, overwrite them with new values, you can reuse those tags as well. So you don't need to get the cheap sticker ones. They also have other more robust tags as well. So that brings us on to RFID scanning. Now, this is the part where it gets a little more difficult to do it in FileMaker because obviously, like RFID scanning is not built into my iOS device. So how would I go about scanning that? So a project we did was with a company that does heritage cattle farming, and they needed a way to scan their animals out in the field with these are actual, cattle ear tags. And they came to us looking for, man, I guess QuickTime's given up on me. They came to us with wanting to have a way to pull up and use their cattle scanner. So they actually sent us one in the mail, and I have it here actually. So if you're wondering what a commercial RFID scanning device looks like, this is the Allflex. I'll try to hold it back here so you can see how big it is. It's a little too big. It's called the Allflex RS420 wand. And basically the technique that you use to do this in FileMaker is you turn this device into a keyboard, and you put your you pair your scanner as a Bluetooth device as a keyboard, and then you're able to select that keyboard and use it. So this also requires a third-party app. It's this one over here called Serial Magic Keys. And if I go in here, I can see there's my paired scanner. So now I'm able to use that. I'm just going to double check that I can use it in here. And I'm going to scan one of these tags over here. Oh, it's complaining about something. So you can tell this is a little more complicated. You actually have to select the right keyboard as well. There we go. I think that will get it for me. Yep, there we go. So you can see that scanned that number in the text field for me here. And that matches the number that's on this tag here, 8400031. Yeah. So to use this in FileMaker, it's essentially the same thing. do an RFID scan, you'll connect this scanner as a keyboard. You'll walk around close to the tag, and you'll scan that information. So this also supports multiple scanning as well. So you can scan a bunch of stuff, and then after like a 10-second pause, it will deliver that information to the keyboard. It says, do not use to strike animals or objects on there. So not actually a baton, but it's pretty, it's a like $1,200 RFID scanner too, by the way. But this lets me trigger an action in FileMaker the same way. So in their system, it both records the scan, so it knows which technician is in the field using that iPad. It knows which animal they just scanned. It makes a log record of when it was scanned, and it starts the process for them to do a health check, essentially. So, you know, on a weekly basis, they're going and they're doing a pretty thorough health check of their livestock. So there's a little bit of jumping through hoops to get this to work. It works as a keyboard. It doesn't work as a native device because it's this completely separate thing. But through a combination of techniques, you can use that to do RFID scanning. So that's essentially it.
Well, as usual, I have a couple of questions for you, Mike. So what would you see the best use case for each of these scenarios? Like, why would you choose a barcode? One thing I didn't see is how close you had to be to the NFC. And I know with the cows, with the RFID, they were in ATVs and they wanted to just kind of, you know, get close but not have a charging bull.
Yeah, so the scanning range for this all flex is about 2 feet. You have to be within about 2 feet of one of the tags to pick it up. And every scanning device kind of has its sweet spot. With NFC, basically how these passive tags work, and by passive I mean this isn't battery powered, so it's not plugged in broadcasting its own signal. It is essentially like a dead object that's not digital until a device comes and, you know, uses radio waves to excite the chip and makes it broadcast its signal in response or something like that. I'm not going to go into the physics discussion of how those two techniques work, but I can tell you the scan range for NFC is a lot, like for an iOS device, you have to be pretty close. I actually took the case off my phone today to make it work better. So you probably have to be within an inch to be able to scan an NFC tag. With RFID, you get a little more range. Also, the commercial availability of RFID tags usually makes that a more robust thing. The RFID tags are a little more impervious towards, you know, getting their data lost when somebody with a magnet walks by. NFC tags are pretty fragile because, I mean, you can program them with your iPhone. So I wouldn't think that the iPhone has a very strong reading or scanning capability. But, you know, the price matches that to suit. So each NFC tag I'm using costs, you know, 50 to 75 cents. Each one of these RFID tags costs like $4.30. And that's when you're buying them in buckets of 1,000. So it's one of those things. It's definitely right tool for the right job. I would consider, like, if I was to generalize it, I would say NFC tags are like consumer grade applications, and RFID is more enterprise commercial grade applications.
Do you think barcodes are kind of going by the wayside now, or do you still think they're still powerful?
There's always going to be a use case for barcodes, is just because that's, you know, if I go buy a box of reads, it's always going to have a barcode on it. The NFC tag on this box, I put there myself. So if you need an identifier that you can always count on, that's going to be there. I suppose, actually, really quick, it would be good to show you how to generate barcodes, and that's kind of easy to do. Well, actually kind of trivial to do in FileMaker now because they added it as an add-on. So I'm going to go into add-ons here and select Barcode Generator, And I'm going to just drop that into my layout here. And this is how long it takes to add barcodes now. So my configurator, I'm going to say, I'm going to send my index code there. Actually, I need to create a new field for my barcode. So I'm just going to do that really quick. I'm going to say barcode. I'm going to set my phone down now. I think we're done with that for a while. Okay. So really index code, image field goes into hunt. Did I not say that as container? No, it's container. I think maybe I have to reinstall. Oops. I'm just going to reinstall the add-on since it's so simple. And let me, while I'm at it, I'm just going to pop that field on there, that barcode field. So let's configure this again. Index code, barcode, there it is. I think it just has to be on the layout. So here's where you can select what kind of code you want to create. So I'm just going to say code 128, sure, that's fine. And what the line color it is. This is the color of the barcode line. So 000 is black. There's an example of red, so I'll put that in there. And then you have a background color. So I'm going to set that to white, which I know is all Fs. Okay, we're going to save that. And now I should just be able to generate a barcode like that. And actually the configuration seems off. I'm going to change this back to black for the line color. That again. So there you go. So that's how easy it is to generate barcodes in FileMaker now. And you can see here it's got my index code in there. That was the code I was using in my NFC tags there. And it generates the barcode. So I should be able to scan that now. I'll actually just pull that up on my screen. I'll do a barcode scan. And, well, it's not scanning the right field because that's doing Google search. But you get the idea. Like it's just super simple to integrate barcodes. All right.
Pretty cool.
Look at that. It was so informational and well delivered of a presentation that I'm done early and there's no questions in the chat.
Well, I think another use case with the barcodes where it came in is we were asked by a Division I college football band to create an attendance system for the band folks. And I think, you know, part of the challenge of doing this kind of stuff is that you have to program you have to program the chip, or you have to program, or you have to print out a bunch of barcodes and things like that. Well, they were able to use the student IDs that already had a barcode on it. So the university was issuing student IDs. They were able to then, you know, funnel the students through. I think this was pre-COVID. They were able to funnel the students through a series of 4 gates. They had iPads. They were just taking the pictures of the barcode as fast as they could. We had set it up. Well, the royal we. I wouldn't know how to do it, but Mike set it up so that when you hit it to get a student, it went to the next one to get the next student. And all it did was mark whether the student had attended or not. So there are some situations, I think, where you don't have to go through the laborious process of creating and printing out barcodes. With the other 2 technologies, I think you actually have to buy them. RFID, I don't think you have to do anything, just put it wherever you want it to be. And then you'd have to have some way to scan it and tell what that number correlates with. Like the cows, you had to tell that number was Bessie, and whatever the story was. But there is a little bit of setup, but there's a ton of barcodes out there that already exist that don't require you to do a massive amount of setup. And then FileMaker can do all those different kinds of barcodes, so it's kind of cool there too as well.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that most people have something with a barcode on it within probably 20 feet of them right now at this moment.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got some questions from the studio audience here. Do iPads support NFC? Mike, do you know?
I believe, yes, they do, but it's more recent model.
There you go.
2013, 2014 iPad Air. So it has been on for a while. I think iOS hasn't had the NFC tools for as long as the iPad and iPhone devices have had. So I think like Apple put the NFC chips in when they started doing Apple Pay, I think. So if your device supports Apple Pay, I believe it supports NFC, because that actually works in the same sort of on the same antenna.
Right, right. And Tony, what was your use case for passively weighting or scanning NFC or RFID in the background? What were you thinking there?
I'm imagining, you've got iOS going, and we talked about kind of script triggers and things like that in the past. If there was a way that if it detected a, NFC scan or something, or if you held the device up, that it would pull up, like the little notification thing on the device, and then be able to take action somehow in FileMaker.
Yeah, some of the scanning apps out there have the ability to forward information along, but everything's kind of trigger action. So there's two types of, for all of these scanners, especially when you're looking at this from outside of a FileMaker point of view, they all support two types of scanning, like scanning one code or scanning groups of code. So like this, the big giant Allflex wand, this actually has, I think something like 64 megabytes of built-in memory on it. So you can actually walk out in the field and people will just walk through the field holding the scan button down and like just scan, and then they'll go back to their office and download it to their computer, and they'll see if they're missing any animals or something like that. So that's called, like groups or multi-scanner. I don't know, everybody's got a different name for it, but that still works for barcodes and for NFC tags as well. FileMaker supports the NFC tagging until like you reach a timeout, and you can set that timeout really high, essentially to what iOS's limit is. I don't know what their limit is, but I think it's like 10 minutes or something. So you could have that like scanner up on your screen. So like if you wanted to do like a blitz style scavenger hunt with a bunch of people going around and trying to scan things. I don't know if anybody was at the DEF CON where iBeacons were the big thing and they had the iBeacon scavenger hunt, but similar to that. NFC is also really cheaper than iBeacons. I actually didn't bring iBeacons because they're kind of dead at this point.
And Tony, I don't think there is a way to write currently NFC or RFID.
Not from FileMaker. You need a separate app to write NFC. Also, I don't think there's most RFID things you can't program. They're already going to come pre-coded, and the actual equipment that you need to like flash one of these tags is going to be cost prohibitive for most people. Like these cattle tags, they have the actual identification number like impression printed on them. So like these are designed to be secure so the number doesn't change. Obviously that having a tag where the number could be reprogrammed could be a big issue, especially for something like livestock, because you could have a very healthy cow that got sent to the slaughterhouse last week and a very sick cow. And if you took the tag off of the very healthy cow and put it on the very sick cow, then, you know, it's a fraud thing. And that's not saying that it's going to stop anybody from still swapping tags out, but it's at least going to offer that level of security that you're not going to reprogram that tag. So usually RFID tags you're already buying pre-done. You can find NFC tags pre-coded as well. You can also use the metadata that comes out of these tags. So like when I scanned it with the one app, you saw there was a bunch of information about it, the serial number and stuff. So you could use that, similar to like using get persistent ID on FileMaker or something like that, where it's like the MAC address of the tag or something like that. But yeah, your actions are either going to be based on like a length of time of collecting a bunch of scans or triggered by a single scan. And most of the time, I think people dealing with FileMaker solutions are doing single scan stuff, like scan one thing, it does that. In the case of the attendance, it was scan a barcode, it goes, does a record. When it completes doing that record, it goes back to the scan mode, waiting for a barcode. So you can do that kind of loop process where it's kind of like you're continuously scanning, but it's still triggered for each time it scans to go record a record somewhere.
Gotcha. And from Jeff, is there a way, Mike, to more focus the barcode scanning if you've got several barcodes close together?
I forget how it handles it, but no, I don't think so. I think from FileMaker Go, it just picks up the first one that it collects. I think if you use the regular camera, it'll actually draw like the little red boxes around which one. But the best thing you can do is hold it up close and move the camera back from the one you're trying to scan. Gotcha. That's another barcode issue, but that would be an issue too with if you had, you know, I've got 4 of these RFID tags. So like if I had 4 animals close together, like, you know, when the wand scans something, it might catch 2 at the same time.
And then Mike, could you give the 2 names of the apps that you used?
Yeah.
Nfc and RFID.
One is Serial Magic Keys. This one for RFID, and the one for, honestly, I just did a search in the App Store this morning for NFC scanning, and it was called Nfc Tools. So here's this one, Nfc Tools. I don't know exactly what the in-app purchases are. I don't think it charged me anything for it. Serial Magic Keys is free with supported devices, but some devices it costs more to support. And it's important to note as well that the keyboard technique isn't just for like RFID devices. It actually works for other like Rfid Scan barcode scanners. So like if you had like a checkout scanner that's a laser scanner that has like the red bar for barcodes, you could use that for FileMaker Go using that keyboard technique. And actually some people prefer that because it's a lot more accurate. So in Jeff's question where he said, could you focus on one barcode? You could get a Bluetooth barcode scanner and pair it with your iPad or a FileMaker Go, or in that case, you could pair it with your FileMaker Pro device on your computer as well. You know, if you've got something that would pair it with Bluetooth or has a USB input for the scanner. And then you could use that to scan into a field in FileMaker. But there's a lot of other devices too that kind of work as keyboards, not just RFID scanners. And RFID scanners come in all shapes and sizes as well. They're, you know, smaller than a deck of cards to, well, this is certainly the largest one I've seen ever. But I'm sure there's probably very large like pass-through scanners as well. The ones that look like gateways where you walk through it and it scans something out of your pocket. That type of thing. Perfect. So all of those, you know, what's important here is the technique. So the first two barcodes and NFC tags are built into FileMaker as native functions now. It also supports RFID, but there might be some jumping through hoops like I showed today. So as long as you know those techniques, then you can pretty much get whatever hardware you need to get and figure out how to integrate it with your system.
We had somebody who wanted to comment also. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Li Zhishi. I'm a biologist in USDA at Plum Island. I just want to add a couple of comments on the usage of RFID. First thing is RFID can be printed. So we are interested on that for a long time for the inventory control. So the advantage of that is we do have a scanner that's a size of iPad. So the good thing is with the RFID, you have a special printer. You can print that and label the tube. So we have a historic repository, sample repository, and most of them is already packaged, sealed to prevent any changes, only in case we need it. For example, even the vaccine, which sealed and we can ship out, but to control them, especially most time is in the liquid nitrogen. We cannot open that, check that, count that, and then that will damage the quality. And the beauty is you can put the whole box on the reader, then read that, the box. But the drawback is sometimes the read, it won't read the whole thing. You have to shake and turn the box and get it to read to get the whole information. Another thing is most usage of RFID is currently the next gene sequencing. So whatever for the whole genome sequencing, either human or the COVID-19, all these equipment have built-in the RFID reader. So all the reagents, once you put there, it will read everything. So they tracking the catalog number, the expiration date, all these things. And for me, so I using a FileMaker to implement the inventory. So I'd like to FileMaker have the ability to read the RFID. So before we put something into the machine, when we receive the reagent, we can scan and get all the information, what the expiration date, the capacity, because different reagent have different capacity, how long the genome you can read. So this information, if we have a pre-hand, we can easily find that because all that will be on the freezer. It's attached together. You prefer to use the kit before it's expired, but don't want using the latest received, which have a later day, shelf life. But unfortunately, most time we receive, you want to search the whole, not search, rearrange the freezer, put the new kit back to the freezer, put the old one in front. So that's end up a lot of time. We found out some kit already expired, and that kit cost, from 1,000 to 10,000. So that's the thing we really want to implement it to the FileMaker system. So
that's
added.
That's called FIFO, which is FIFO just stands for first in, first out, and that's like an inventory strategy for managing stock. Usually, people in their day-to-day lives experience that through their grocery store, which is why people habitually reach into the back of the case to grab a gallon of milk from the back rather than the front. Maybe that's just a Midwest thing, but people will look for the furthest out expiration date rather than like, I'm going to be drinking this in 2 days, so I should get something that expires in a week rather than 2 weeks. So yeah, FIFO does reduce waste. That's very achievable with FileMaker though. So when you do that scan, you can look up what product that is, and you can check to see if like the box number that they're scanning is the same box number that's that FIFO inventory. And if it's not, you can pop up a warning on the screen that says, don't use this. look for this box instead. So that type of process automation is definitely achievable with FileMaker. Unfortunately, in the case of RFID and like, handheld scanners that go into computers, you do need to use the technique where it's activating a field and waiting for that scan to go in. So you're dealing with paired devices. It's not as elegant as the built-in FileMaker script steps, and I don't know that they're ever going to build an RFID like scanner into an iOS device itself. So it might be that you always have to use this technique. There might not be a way that they can easily integrate it with FileMaker Go, but you can integrate it today to do that level of involvement. But yeah, your point about the RFID being in a closed box and not being able to read it, that would essentially eliminate NFC tags, because like as soon as an NFC tag is like more than an inch away or maybe behind glass or something, like I said, even with my phone case that I have for my phone isn't a very, like it's maybe a millimeter thick and it's like flexible, but it was enough where I noticed that it wasn't picking up scans very well for those NFC tags. So that's a great use case. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
I
I
just
can't
want to
remember.
add one more-
Go
sorry.
ahead. Sorry, go
Just
ahead.
want to add one more question. Do you know any small scanner for the RFID?
Yeah, basically what you want to look for is just a RFID keyboard scanner iOS. What you want to, Serial Magic Keys might have a list of devices they support.
Okay.
So anything listed on Serial IO's website should be possible to do. If you're seeing like BLE is Bluetooth, so you want to make sure that it pairs with whatever computer you're going to be scanning with. I know ScanFob works. So some of these are a lot smaller. This one's handheld. This one's designed to actually be held on like a necklace so that you can walk around and scan things. But yeah, I would basically go through like this website and see like what devices are supported. But if it's an RFID scanner and it supports Bluetooth and it has a keyboard mode, the keyboard mode is the one that's important. So because that's how it gets the data into FileMaker, is by essentially automatically typing it for you when it scans the tag.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
All right. This is recorded and put in our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to scrub through and find these links later if you need to. But it doesn't look like we have any other questions. I do feel like this is an underutilized technology that we don't necessarily grab a hold of in our the productivity that we're seeking with FileMaker. But there's a ton of use cases where this would actually be good. So
I've got two more things. I've got our tip of the day.
Yeah.
Which I just want to go in and kind of show you how I made this little star rating thing here. So all that is it's a button bar, and the button bar is actually using a Unicode font object of that star. And it's just a simple, if the rating is greater than or equal to 1, then pop that star in there. And it just does that for all 5 segments there. I've got a little rating field over here I'll pop back on. Actually pop it on so it's out of the way. But if I change this rating to 1, you'll see it goes down to, and the key is that you want to make sure that it's a blank calculation. That way it keeps the everything left aligned. If I had hidden, you can also hide the button segment, but that would center the rating in the middle. So you could also use this to do a calculation of, put an X there instead of a star, that type of thing. But that's a really easy way to do a ratings thing. And I looked for this originally in like the marketplace. I looked to see if anybody had already done like a little ratings thing. And 2 people had it. Lumenfire had it, but you had to provide your email address and get on their spam email list to get it. And then there was an add-on in the marketplace that was $10. So I'd like to think that I just saved everybody on this call $10 with this tip. I'll put my Venmo address in the chat window. So
yeah, please send like $5.
Send me $5. Yeah. So that's a really quick way to do like a little rating bar right there. The second thing I wanted to mention was our Cough Mug user group is going back to their in-person format tonight. There's probably not a lot of people here that are in the central Ohio area that can make our in-person meeting, but if you are, then feel free to attend. We're meeting at the Columbus Idea Foundry, which is our normal hangout. We're also going to be broadcasting that on Zoom. So actually, I need to look up as Marshall's closing up, I'm going to look up the Zoom meeting link so people can register for that. Our topic tonight is going to be radical interfaces. So it's a more advanced FileMaker topic geared towards FileMaker developers. But that Zoom meeting will be from at 6:30 p.m. tonight if people want to join by Zoom. So I will go look that up while Marshall wraps us up.
Yeah, so we're always looking for topics. If you guys have run across something within the FileMaker ecosystem, throw something to answers@gomainspring.com. We have our next meeting's coming up on July. We don't have a topic for it yet, but we always seem to pull one out of the hat. I owe it to Katie, who organizes these for me now. It's actually going to be a kind of a weird date. The third Thursday in July is July 15th. July actually has 5 Thursdays in it. So July 15th, we'll get something cooking. And Mike, I think that you have your, I think that you just threw your Zoom link. Perfect. Everybody can grab that from the chat. And that is pretty much it. Like I said, if you run across something that you've heard, read, whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to be programming. It can be a topic that we can get one of the guys to go into a little bit of a deeper dive. It's for you. It's all things FileMaker. So let us know. So have a great weekend. Have a great 4th, and we will see you guys on the other side. Thanks so
much. I'll go with Marshall about sharing this demo file too. It's an easy file that I can just pop up somewhere for people to download.
Great, perfect. Which is going to have the rater in it as a bonus.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you in a month.